Chapter 181, Restoring Strength. As Xiao Kun spoke, Venerable Skyfire rode an emotional roller coaster. First, there was wariness when he heard Xiao Kun knew about his lack of attachments. Then sorrow and anger surged when Xiao Kun laid out his price. To be asked, after all he had been, to hand over his storage ring felt like being taken advantage of. But when Xiao Kun offered to help restore his nearly depleted soul power, and even to reconstruct his physical body, the old Venerable's resolve began to waver. The promise of revival was irresistible. After a long internal struggle, resurrection outweighed everything else. The solemn old face softened into a smile. "I don't know how you learned about me, Venerable Xiao Kun," he said at last, "but if you can truly do all you claim, I will hand over my storage ring willingly. I would even serve as a consecrator for your Xiao family." Xiao Kun's expression brightened as he had expected. "Good, we'll split this into 2 stages. First, I'll help you restore your soul power, and in return, you give me the contents of your storage ring. Later, when I help rebuild your physical body, you will be a consecrator for my Xiao family. Agreed?" "Acceptable." Venerable Skyfire agreed after a brief show of reluctance. He knew he was vulnerable now. These terms were not as bad as they could have been. Xiao Kun produced 5 jade bottles. "These are spirit recovery purple pills, 6th grade, but extremely effective at restoring soul power. 5 should be enough, with some to spare." He tossed the bottles to the Venerable. Venerable Skyfire caught them with soul power, and as he opened a bottle, the comforting aroma of medicinal herbs drifted out. He felt his soul power return in the faintest thread and immediately brightened. One by one he emptied the bottles, and before long he laughed, a sound almost boyish with relief. "Venerable Xiao Kun, your timing is impeccable. The first condition is fulfilled." A snow-white storage ring suddenly detached itself from an unseen corner inside the barrier space and floated to Xiao Kun. "This is my storage ring, and it is also the dwelling of my soul now. Everything inside is yours." Xiao Kun probed the ring with his soul power. He saw several Earth-rank advanced cultivation techniques and dough techniques. Satisfied, he transferred all the items into his own storage ring. Transaction complete. "Good," Venerable Skyfire said, visibly relieved. He placed the empty jade bottles into his storage, and perhaps because he had immediately consumed the pills, Xiao Kun observed his soul power rising at a visible rate. Within minutes, the Venerable's strength reached the level of a dough king. Xiao Kun left him to it and began reorganizing the contents he had acquired. There were plenty of medicinal ingredients but few prepared pills, no surprise given how badly he'd been injured. Then Xiao Kun unrolled a scroll whose rank was unclear at a glance. It was the 5-round Li Fire method, the technique Venerable Skyfire had once given to Xiao Yan in the original story. In a hand that could command multiple flames, this technique could rival a heaven-rank do skill. This was clearly a trump card, at least a heaven-rank ability in the right hands. Xiao Kun smiled and tucked the scroll away. A day later, a powerful aura washed through the barrier space, comparable to a peak du zong. The barrier trembled. Without a physical body, a Du Venerable's soul power could only be restored so far, and the aura made it clear Venerable Skyfire had recovered to his maximum without a body. "I have enough strength to protect myself now," Venerable Skyfire murmured. "Venerable Xiao Kun, thank you for pulling me back from the brink." Venerable Skyfire knew Xiao Kun could have taken the ring by force, but he had chosen to trade. He was grateful. "No need to thank me," Xiao Kun replied. "I've detected that the group of lizards outside retreated long ago. Let's leave this cursed place." "All right." The Venerable's figure melted back into the white storage ring, which then flew into Xiao Kun's hand. Xiao Kun paused, then said bluntly, "There will be times I put you into a confined space. When I sleep, for example. As long as nothing is happening, I'll take you out. Be prepared." Venerable Skyfire hesitated, then after a moment accepted it. "I can accept that. Everyone needs privacy." Xiao Kun slipped the storage ring onto one finger and moved on. He thought of the intimate moments he sometimes shared with women and the many secrets he kept. There would be times it was necessary to confine the Venerable in his system space. Cloaked in his golden-green life essence heart flame, Xiao Kun stepped out of the barrier into the crimson magma fields. Free of the barrier's distortion, he could sense his clone hovering above the lava clearly. He was there to search, so he worked methodically. When he was done, there was no need for elaborate return maneuvers. With a pull of his hand, he opened a spatial passage barely 10 feet wide, just enough for one person. A barrier he'd set held back the surging magma, and within seconds he stepped beside his clone and absorbed it, removing the different flame from his body. He was about to open another passage toward the surface when Venerable Skyfire's voice spoke in his ear, unexpectedly earnest. "I didn't expect that you, only a one-star due Venerable, would surpass me in your application of spatial power. It shames me." "I had an encounter before," Xiao Kun replied simply. "It made my spatial application much more proficient." "I see," came the soft response, followed by a pause. Then Venerable Skyfire added, "Your clone technique just now. It was profound. I couldn't tell which was real." "Also from an encounter," Xiao Kun said, giving the reply as perfunctory as the first. Chapter 182, Fire Spirit Orb and Bone-Chilling Flame. In reality, Venerable Skyfire had only seen the surface of the clone. If he had known the clone possessed strength comparable to Xiao Kun's, he would have been utterly shocked. "It seems he's been trapped alone in the magma for decades. No wonder he's gone mad," Venerable Skyfire muttered. Xiao Kun watched him growing long-winded and couldn't help a sigh. At least Venerable Skyfire had come to recognize him to some degree. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so much to say. After answering a few more questions, Xiao Kun, not wanting to waste time, interrupted and then traced Suqian's position. He tore open space and left. Cough. The cough made Suqian, who had been waiting at the entrance of the sky-burning Qi refining tower, realize someone had appeared beside him. A cold sweat broke out and he snapped back to the side. Only after retreating 100 meters did he calm enough to see who had spoken. A familiar figure stepped into view, Xiao Kun, who had left a day earlier to search for a new heavenly flame. Suqian's aged face broke into a series of wry smiles. "Now I truly recognize the terror of Xiao Kun's strength. If he had been an enemy, I'd be dead long ago." The more he thought about it, the more inadequate Suqian felt. Xiao Kun hadn't been able to do this a day ago. Previously, the spatial fluctuations from opening a tunnel would certainly have been detected by Suqian, a Dozong-level expert. But while inside the barrier space Venerable Skyfire had created, while Venerable Skyfire was using pills to heal, Xiao Kun had idly studied the barrier, learning its strengths, compensating for its weaknesses. During that study, he had fallen into an inexplicable state and his comprehension of space leapt forward. That was how he could now open a spatial tunnel right next to Suqian without being noticed. His mastery of spatial application now surpassed many Dozun experts. Once Suqian recovered from his surprise, he hurried forward and asked eagerly, "Venerable Xiao Kun, did you find the other fallen heart flame you mentioned?" "I did. I brought the heavenly flame back." Suqian's face lit up. He glanced at Xiao Kun's palm. "Where is it? Let me see it quickly." "Here." Xiao Kun didn't waste words. He drew the infant fallen heart flame from his storage ring, removed the life essence heart flame wrapping from its surface, and handed it to Suqian. An invisible flame the size of a head manifested before Suqian. Feeling its familiar refining aura, he knew this was indeed a newborn fallen heart flame. Trembling, he accepted it, his gratitude toward Xiao Kun beyond words. At the same time, a system prompt chimed in Xiao Kun's mind. "Ding, you have gifted Suqian a newborn fallen heart flame. You have triggered a 100-fold critical reward. You have obtained the heavenly flame, bone-chilling flame. All items have been stored in system space. Please check." It had been a 100-fold critical reward, yet the only thing obtained was the bone-chilling flame. It seemed this infant heavenly flame truly was much weaker. In fact, the recent havoc caused by the fallen heart flame had turned into a blessing for Jianan Academy. This infant fallen heart flame hadn't yet developed sentience. If they guided it carefully, it would naturally grow attached to Jianan Academy. In a few decades, the Academy would gain another trump card. Regarding refining, the newborn flame wasn't inferior to the previous complete version. The earlier mature fallen heart flame had never willingly worked for the Academy. Any refining had relied on formations to absorb its overflow. A newborn flame, lacking sentience, could be nurtured to actively assist with refining, potentially producing effects far greater than before. and they'd no longer have to fear the complete fallen heart flame rioting and forcing them to constantly reinforce the seal. No wonder Suqian was overjoyed and deeply grateful to Xiao Kun. After a long pause, Suqian finally said, "I don't know how to thank you. Jianan Academy will always be your friend. Our headmaster is often absent, but as a Dozun expert, he can still offer assistance. If there's anything we can do for you in the future, we won't hesitate." "That is enough." Xiao Kun smiled. He suddenly remembered that Meng Tianqi should already be a half-saint now, and this had established a good relationship. They exchanged a few more polite words, and then Suqian, eager to restore the sky-burning Qi refining tower, took his leave. Xiao Kun returned to the pavilion Suqian had arranged. Inside, only Yafei and Yun were cultivating. Medusa and Ziyan had slipped away together to an unknown place. He frowned slightly at those two. Since Xiao Yan was in seclusion, the crimson beads and the 5-round Li fire method, Xiao Kun had found at the bottom of the magma couldn't be given to him yet. Both items were valuable to fire attribute cultivators. Xiao Kun went to Yafei's room. She had just come out of cultivation. "Yafei," he said, "I feel your progress is still too slow. During this trip, I acquired a spiritual item that can accelerate cultivation for fire attribute cultivators. I'll give it to you." "Really? What is it?" Yafei, who had long felt the gap between her and the others, brightened immediately. Xiao Kun produced 2,000 crimson beads from his storage ring and set them down in a small pile. These crimson beads each only take about a quarter hour to absorb, but each is equivalent to 2 days of ordinary effort. 2,000 should keep you going for a while. Keep it up. "That many?" Yafei picked one up with curiosity and inspected it. Finding it exactly as Xiao Kun described and extremely beneficial, she happily stored them all into her ring. Her eyes shone as she smiled. "Now my cultivation can catch up to you guys a bit more." As expected, the system chimed in Xiao Kun's mind. "Ding, you have gifted Yafei 2,000 crimson beads. You have triggered a 1,000-fold critical reward. You have obtained 2,000 fire spirit orbs. All items have been stored in system space. Please check." A 1,000-fold critical, his luck this time was impressive. Xiao Kun quickly checked the compensated item's information. The Fire Spirit Orb had a formidable name, but it was still inferior to the Fire Spirit Orb from Chinese Paladin. The system's orb was a spiritual object that could be fully nurtured within a few hundred years. Still, as a natural spiritual item, its effect was remarkable. Consuming one Fire Spirit Orb could increase the cultivation speed of fire attribute cultivators below the Dozun level by 10-fold for 10 days. For Dosheng level fire cultivators, it increased cultivation speed 5-fold for 10 days, but it had no effect on Dew Emperors. Such terrifying amplification was immensely useful to Xiao Kun. Combined with the Green Lotus sacred seat, a single day of his cultivation could be equivalent to 20 days for others, truly divine speed in cultivation. Chapter 183, Four Saint Fire Technique. Thinking it over, Xiao Kun's mood brightened. He wasn't going to burn through all 2,000 fire spirit orbs anytime soon, so he decided to give some to Yafei. "Do you have anything even better to give me?" Yafei asked eagerly. "You guessed it?" Xiao Kun was a little surprised. "You've done that so often before I've come to expect it." Hearing that, Yafei grinned sheepishly. After a few previous gifts, he had indeed immediately handed over whatever rare item he'd procured from a critical hit, so it was no wonder she could predict him. "That's right, these are fire spirit orbs." Xiao Kun didn't dally. He took out the 300 fire spirit orbs he'd planned to give her and explained how they could be used. "Xiao Kun, you're amazing. You can pull out treasures like this in heaps." Yafei squealed, tucking the orbs away. Then, like a contented koala, she hugged his right arm tightly, smiling from ear to ear. Xiao Kun felt a warm sense of satisfaction at her delight and teased, "You're happy with just this?" Her eyes lit up again. She grabbed his arm excitedly and asked, "Is there a cultivation treasure?" Don't get your hopes up. Good cultivation treasures aren't easy to come by, but I did pick up a dough technique that suits your level, the 5-round Li fire method. If used with a unique flame, it can reach the power of a heaven-ranked dough skill. Even without a special flame, it's equivalent to a high-grade earth-ranked dough technique. It should serve you for a long time. "I want to reach Dozong quickly." Yafei said. This is perfect. Thank you, Xiao Kun. I'll study it right away. Xiao Kun smiled and handed her the crimson scroll containing the 5-round Li fire method. Yafei trusted him completely. She didn't even examine it and slipped it straight into her storage ring. A familiar chime sounded in Xiao Kun's mind. Ding! You gifted Yafei the Do technique, 5-round Li fire method. You triggered a 10,000-fold critical compensation. You obtained the Do technique, 4 Saint fire technique. All items have been stored in system space. Please check. 10,000-fold? Xiao Kun muttered, astonished. A 10,000-fold critical hit hadn't shown up for a long time. What could the system compensate him with for such an event? He checked the details eagerly, and the information made his heart race. The 4 Saint fire technique was essentially a supremely enhanced version of the 5-round Li fire method. The 5-round method had 5 phases, channeling, in turn, wolf, leopard, tiger, lion, and flood dragon. At major achievement, it could form the 5-round Li fire formation capable of burning mountains and boiling seas. The 4 Saint fire technique, by contrast, had 4 stages, invoking 4 divine beasts: azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. At major achievement, it could unleash the 4 Saint formation to annihilate enemies. Even without a unique flame, finishing the first stage equaled a heaven rank intermediate Do technique. The second stage reached heaven rank advanced. Completing all 4 stages and forming the formation equated to an unrivaled imperial rank Do technique. With a unique flame, its power would be beyond imagination. Xiao Kun had long heard the legends of the 4 sacred beasts. Now he could only imagine how vast the divine might of such a technique would be. Thrilled, he planted a fierce kiss on Yafei's cheek. Startled, Yafei blinked, but she didn't scold him. Instead, she felt only gratitude for his efforts on the trip that had brought her so many gifts. Without a word, she pushed him down onto a chair and began to massage him. More pressure here, she murmured, evidently having studied the techniques from medical texts. Xiao Kun directed her a little and relaxed, enjoying the unexpected pampering. He hadn't given those gifts, expecting anything in return. Her voluntary care felt like a bonus. After half an hour of expert kneading, he felt thoroughly refreshed. All right, that's enough. That was perfect, he said, stretching. I still have a few things to take care of. You should focus on your cultivation. It felt great. I learned what I needed to, Yafei replied, clearly pleased with herself. After bidding her goodbye, Xiao Kun went to Yunyun's room. In the past 2 days, he'd picked up many cultivation techniques and Do techniques, several wind attribute earth rank methods among them, and he planned to give them to Yunyun. Maybe the system would trigger another critical compensation and produce higher grade techniques that could speed her cultivation. He knocked, and Yunyun, having just finished a session, opened the door with a gentle smile. Xiao Kun, what brings you by? I ran into some good fortune the day before yesterday. I picked up several wind attribute earth rank cultivation techniques and Do techniques. See if any of them help you. He stepped into her boudoir and handed over 5 azure scrolls. Thank you. Yunyun accepted them without ceremony. She knew these would aid her strength. Again, the system chimed. Ding! You gifted Yunyun 5 scrolls of wind attribute earth rank Do techniques and cultivation techniques. You triggered a 1,000-fold critical compensation. You obtained 1 scroll of heaven rank advanced cultivation technique, wind principle, 1 scroll of heaven rank advanced soundwave Do technique, Huangquan heavenly fury, 1 scroll of heaven rank intermediate offensive Do technique, Yellow Springs palm, and 2 scrolls of earth rank high-grade cultivation techniques and Do techniques. All items have been stored in system space. Please check. Xiao Kun's pulse quickened. Aside from the 2 earth rank items, the 3 heaven rank techniques the system produced were extremely valuable. The wind attribute, heaven rank advanced cultivation technique, wind principle, would be perfect for Yunyun, so he planned to give it to her. Huangquan heavenly fury and Yellow Springs palm were well-known universal Do techniques in the original records. Anyone could cultivate them, but only the first person to use the scroll would benefit from the legacy space effect. Subsequent users would have to train the old-fashioned way. That just meant it would take more time. For Xiao Kun, Huangquan heavenly fury was especially welcome. With his strong soul power, the technique would make up for his relative lack of soul-based attack strength and essentially give him a tremendous boost, like adding wings to a tiger. Chapter 184, Refining Three Strange Flames. In the original work, Xiao Kun relied on an Emperor Realm Soul and a special Do technique to defeat 7-star Do Sheng opponents, even when his own cultivation was much lower. And because the spirit burning art is so effective at linking to soul power, Xiao Kun's soul naturally rose to the early heaven realm when he broke through to Do Zun. It's believed that once he becomes a Do Sheng, his soul will inevitably reach the Emperor realm. No wonder Xiao Kun decided to keep the Huangquan heavenly fury for himself. The prospect excited him, though his expression remained calm as he spoke to Yun Yun. "Oh, right, those earlier ones were just appetizers. These last two are the main course." "Is that so? That makes sense. With your background, you wouldn't come here just to give me Earth-rank Do techniques and cultivation manuals," Yun Yun said. "Ha, you still know me well," Xiao Kun laughed. He thought to himself that both Yun Yun and Ye Fei had already figured out his gift-giving pattern. They weren't surprised when he mentioned more gifts. These are a heaven-rank advanced cultivation technique, Wind Rule, and a heaven-rank intermediate Do technique, Yellow Springs Palm. From now on, you'll have heaven-rank techniques too. He produced 2 scrolls, one green, one yellow, and handed them to Yun Yun. She'd expected better items later, but she hadn't guessed they'd both be heaven rank, and not low rank at that. Shocked for a moment, she recovered, took the scrolls, and then, just as Xiao Kun thought the exchange was finished, stopped him and began to massage his shoulders. It seemed the 2 women had reached a quiet agreement to avoid favoritism. Although Ye Fei had already massaged him, Yun Yun insisted, and Xiao Kun relented, enjoying another half-hour of pampering. Satisfied, Yun Yun smiled, and Xiao Kun told her he would go into seclusion. He headed down to the seclusion area beneath the pavilion. His room wouldn't do. Having obtained 3 strange flames in the last 2 days, he wanted to refine them at once. The slightest leakage of a strange flame would be disastrous, so a specialized chamber was necessary. After walking several hundred meters underground, he arrived at a sealed chamber paved with black rock. Moonstones set into the walls kept the room from feeling dark. The chamber's 100+ square meters felt comfortably spacious. He placed a green lotus sacred seat in the center, sat cross-legged, and thought about the order in which to refine the flames. He decided to work from easiest to hardest for a smoother process. His right hand made a grasping motion, and a bone-white flame, alternating between intense heat and bitter cold, appeared. Bone-chilling flame, ranked 11th on the strange fire list. Aside from the top 3 strange flames, which required medicinal assistance, he could refine the others directly. He activated the spirit burning art, and the bone-white flame flowed into existence like a projection, channeling into his meridians through his palm. With the life essence heart flame restraining it, the bone-chilling flame was docile, following the spirit-burning art's circulation path with no disruptions. Cycle after cycle, the flame was stamped with Xiao Kun's signature imprint. The vast energy inside was absorbed rapidly, and his Do Qi surged. 3 days later, a muffled sound came from his body, and a stronger aura burst out. The jade pendant that concealed his aura couldn't hide it this time. He had broken through to 2-star Do Zun. The bone-chilling flame's energy was entirely absorbed. It seemed this 11th-ranked flame could only boost a Do Zun by a single star. Progress would be slower, but Xiao Kun kept his spirits. 2 stronger strange flames remained. Next, he took out a purple-black flame, the 3000 burning flame, ranked 9th. It too was taken in without incident. 2 weeks later, its energy had been fully absorbed, and his realm had leaped 3 stars in quick succession. He had reached 5-star Do Zun. Refining the 3000 burning flame had not only increased his strength significantly, he also felt a new vitality in his body. A new physique had formed, the 3000 starry sky physique, a trait gained from devouring that flame. He casually cut a 1-inch gash on his arm and watched it close completely within a second. The regeneration was undeniable. How close it came to the rumored immortality would have to wait for real combat to prove, but its effects were already impressive. After adapting to the new power, he turned to the final strange flame, the the Red Lotus Karma Fire, ranked 8th. A deep red flame shaped like a lotus flame floated in his hand, and he began refining it immediately. Another 2 weeks passed as he worked through its energy. As one advanced further into the Dozun realm, the amount of energy required to advance increased sharply, far exceeding what had been needed in the Dozong realm. In the end, the 8th-ranked Red Lotus Karma Fire pushed him up 3 minor realms to 8-star Dozun. He had consolidated his power considerably, but he still fell short of 9-star Dozun, just missing becoming a peak Dozun in a single go. Beyond the jumps in Do Chi, refining 3 strange flames at once brought Xiao Kun other gains. His soul power rose to the late heaven realm alongside his breakthroughs. With such vast soul power, refining 8th-grade pills was easy, and he could even handle 1 or 2 9th-grade treasure pills, among the best on the Fighting Chi continent. The spirit-burning art, infused with the special energies of the 3 strange flames, had also barely advanced to heaven rank advanced. Being naturally a minor rank stronger than ordinary cultivation techniques, his spirit-burning art was now one of the top cultivation methods on the continent. In future clashes with people from the Gu clan or Hun clan, he would no longer be disadvantaged by his technique. Chapter 185, Karma Fire of Living Beings. Xiao Kun nodded to himself in satisfaction. He made a grasping motion with his right hand, and a dark golden strange flame appeared in his palm. The flame swayed constantly and radiated a temperature far more terrifying than the Life Essence Heart Flame had before. It was the Life Essence Heart Flame after devouring the Red Lotus Karma Fire and the 3 other strange flames. Even Xiao Kun felt a shock at its intensity. He knew this new flame had definitely surpassed the Golden Emperor Sky Burning Flame, which ranked 4th. How it compared to the Purification Lotus Demon Flame, ranked 3rd, he could not be certain, though he suspected it still fell short. The gap between the top 3 on the Strange Flame ranking was enormous. The Purification Lotus Demon Flame could even contend with powerhouses near the late-stage Dew Saint. Still, standing silently over the dark golden fire in his palm, Xiao Kun, who admitted he wasn't good at naming things, pondered and finally decided to call it Karmic Fire of Living Beings. After admiring it and stowing the karmic fire of living beings away, emotion swelled in him. With a wondrous cultivation art, like the spirit-burning art, devouring strange flames was by far the quickest path to power. If he had cultivated by ordinary means, even with the fire spirit orb and the green lotus sacred seat, it would have taken years to reach his current realm. Even with the system's unique Zhengzun pill, which could attract 9-colored pill lightning, it would still have taken nearly 2 years, because pills couldn't be taken too frequently without risking instability. Yet he had done it in a single month. How could he not be moved? After this period of seclusion, Xiao Kun's strength had changed utterly. Where he had once been only among the top fighters on the Northwest continent, now he could truly be considered number 1. In the original world, aside from Xiao Yan's faction, no other force on the Northwest continent had shown an 8-star Duzun powerhouse. The Black Corner region didn't count as part of that continent. Thinking of this, Xiao Kun used his soul power to confirm Jianan Academy remained normal. He then took out 2 newly acquired legacies, Huangquan Heavenly Fury, a heaven-rank advanced Soundwave Do technique, and the 4 Saint Fire technique, an Imperial-rank comparable technique. He decided to strike while the iron was hot and push his limits as far as he could. He first unrolled the yellow scroll of Huangquan Heavenly Fury and poured a vast amount of Do Chi into it. The scroll shattered, and Xiao Kun once again found himself in a legacy space like the one where he had practiced the Great Creation Palm. Knowing this was the system's way of passing down heaven-ranked Do techniques, he began practicing with the figure inside the space. 3 months passed in that legacy. Huangquan Heavenly Fury, he roared. A giant figure hundreds of zhang tall manifested behind him in the space, roaring in unison. At the same time, a soul-targeting sound wave spread outward, annihilating everything within the space. The master in the legacy nodded in satisfaction and allowed Xiao Kun, who had reached major achievement, to return to the real world. Truly worthy of a heaven-rank advanced technique. Back in his secret chamber, Xiao Kun reflected on how his counterpart in the legacy had felt soul power drained and body and mind exhausted after a single use of Huangquan Heavenly Fury, unable to cast it twice. He couldn't help but marvel at the technique's terrifying power and its enormous cost. If not for his high-rank spirit-burning art that amplified his soul power and do qi several times over an ordinary 8-star dozun, he might not even have been able to use Huangquan Heavenly Fury once. It was a technique to be kept as a trump card. After using it, he would be left with almost no combat capability. Tired after experiencing 3 months in that legacy, Xiao Kun rested for a day instead of immediately entering the next legacy. Refreshed, he retrieved the scroll engraved with the 4 sacred beasts and opened it. 4 streams of colored light shot into his body. He was startled, but after waiting and finding nothing immediately different, he entered the legacy space as planned. 1 year passed inside that legacy. 4 Saint Fire technique, he cried. Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird. With rapid hand seals and do qi surging, 3 200 jang tall figures, brimming with oppressive aura, appeared before him. They were the 3 sacred beasts. Though dark gold in hue, their details were vivid, as if they were living divine beasts. Xiao Kun discovered that those 4 rays of light from the scroll had indeed triggered something in him. When he reached the 3rd layer of the 4 Saint Fire technique and manifested the 3 sacred beasts, 3 special powers awoke inside him in succession: enhanced vitality, a denser do qi, and far better flame control. Even after dispelling the technique, those powers didn't fade. They had become innate gifts, making him stronger. He was delighted. This was an unexpected gain from the legacy. With the 4 Saint Fire technique together with the Heavenly Flame 3 mysterious transformations, Xiao Kun believed he could defeat even a 9th Revolution dozun at peak. As for half-saint opponents, they were a different level entirely. But not everything went smoothly. The 4 Saint Fire technique's rank was too high for his current dozun state, and the legacy proved grueling. Despite spending a full year inside, he was stuck at the 3rd layer and couldn't advance. In fact, when he first entered the legacy, he had already mastered the first 3 layers, but the final layer, summoning the Black Tortoise and forming the required formation, eluded him. For half a year he had made no progress. The crucial point was simply beyond his strength. Despairing, Xiao Kun asked the system if he could end the legacy early. Perhaps the system sensed the futility as well. Once he made that decision, his consciousness snapped back to the secret chamber in the real world. He quickly checked with his mind and found the legacy light spot for the 4 Saint Fire technique still intact. Relief washed over him. That meant when his strength was sufficient in the future, the 4 Saint Fire technique could be inherited again. Chapter 186. Exiting Seclusion. If Xiao Kun had left the inheritance space too early and failed to fully absorb that fearsome imperial rank do technique, he would have been heartbroken. Even with lucky strikes, a 10,000-fold critical was extraordinarily rare, especially for a do technique that matched his abnormal flame so perfectly. After that close call, Xiao Kun decided that since his other methods were already sufficient, he wouldn't rush to inherit any more imperial rank do techniques in the future. After some reflection, he began to sort through what he had gained from the inheritance. Though he had only cultivated the first 3 layers, he was sure those layers of the 4 Saint Fire technique were stronger than most heaven-rank advanced do techniques. The downside, his current cultivation could only support shaping 3 sacred beasts, so in a real fight, he could probably only summon 1 sacred beast. After all, a single sacred beast was roughly equivalent to a heaven-rank intermediate do technique, more than enough to suppress opponents of that rank. Besides, the unique divine pressure radiating from a sacred beast would make fighting demonic beast powerhouses much easier. As for where that mysterious pressure came from, Xiao Kun suspected it was due to the special effect of those streaks of light he'd seen in the inheritance. Thinking it over made him feel the long ordeal in the inheritance space had been worth it. After resting another day, Xiao Kun straightened his clothes and left the secret chamber where he had stayed for over a month. Back at the pavilion above ground, he did a quick sweep and was pleasantly surprised. Yunyun and Yafei had both advanced, Yunyun by 2 stars to 4-star Dozong, and Yafei by 2 stars to 3-star Do Huang. It was probably thanks to the medicinal pills Xiao Kun had given them, but their progress still delighted him. Even more surprising was that Xian and Medusa, who had been inseparable and elusive since their friendship began, had returned. When Xiao Kun emerged, everyone in the pavilion came out to greet him. He first congratulated Yunyun and Yafei on their advancement. They beamed. Then, having learned that Medusa and Xian had only come back a week ago, he asked them where they had been messing around. Medusa and Xian stood side by side, both radiating a mature, alluring charm that complemented each other perfectly. They quickly explained. Xian naturally had the ability to detect the unique energy fluctuations of rare treasures and top-grade medicinal ingredients, but previously she had been too weak to actually take them. Treasures were usually guarded by powerful beings she couldn't face. That had frustrated her for a long time. Now, with Medusa, a Dozong at her back, they had pillaged the rare treasures and high-grade medicinal ingredients from the magical beast mountain range beside Jianan Academy. Countless demonic beasts that guarded those riches had howled in despair. After a month of this, with no more profit to be had, they returned to Jianan Academy. As for Medusa and the little heaven-swallowing python swapping identities, Medusa admitted she'd promised that gourmand of a snake she wouldn't eat the ingredients she found. Instead, she'd wait for Xiao Kun to come out and refine pills for her. "I know you're an excellent alchemist," she said, "so I resisted eating these medicinal ingredients, just waiting for you to come out and refine pills for me." Xian suddenly took a step forward. The mature woman transformed in an instant into an almost coquettish figure. She grabbed Xiao Kun's sleeve and twisted it, playing up a childlike charm that made him inwardly helpless. "Good," she chirped, practically dancing, then added in rapid succession, "Good, good, good." "That's certainly possible," Xiao Kun said with a smile. "But can you show me the medicinal ingredients you collected first?" "Look," Xian flicked her hand, and nearly 200 high-grade medicinal ingredients of all shapes and scents fell onto the ground. A rich medicinal fragrance filled the pavilion. Then Medusa, who had been quiet until then, waved her jade hand and produced another 200 medicinal ingredients. Xiao Kun scanned them and was pleasantly surprised. Among those 400 or so ingredients, 50 were varieties he had never seen before, some suitable for refining 6th or even 7th grade medicinal pills. As for rare treasures, those were scarcer. The two had only managed to grab a handful of lesser rare items that still had some effect on Douling, nothing worth mentioning. Xiao Kun smiled and also pitied the demonic beasts around Jianan Academy. With so many medicinal ingredients taken, it was likely several hundred demonic beasts had been deprived of their haul. The magical beast mountain range must be full of whales. He casually stored the medicinal ingredients and the small handful of treasures in his storage ring and laughed heartily. "Haha, you two are amazing. There are many herbs here I've never seen, so what pills do you want?" "I just want 5 of those pills you gave me before." "No, 10!" Xian said at once, greedily raising her hand. Her insatiable tone made everyone chuckle. "All right, no problem." Xiao Kun had expected Xian to ask only for 6th grade pills. It was likely the highest grade she had ever seen. He took 10 Zhenguang pills, the ones that carried immense energy, from his storage ring and handed them to her. After digesting them, she shouldn't be far from Do Huang. Xian happily took one out and swallowed it. The surging energy flushed her cheeks, but her powerful physique quickly assimilated the pill's power. She sighed in satisfaction, much to Xiao Kun's amusement. With Xian's request dealt with, Xiao Kun turned to Medusa. She hesitated. What she wanted above all was a 6th grade soul-fusing pill to fuse with the little heaven-swallowing python. It was the perfect time to ask, but she had no idea how Xiao Kun would react. If he refused, the snake might be lost. She worried about that. "I want a 6th grade soul-fusing pill," she said at last, nervous as she cast her composed, beautiful eyes toward him to gauge his response. Xiao Kun was slightly surprised by the request, then pleased. He had grown very fond of the little heaven-swallowing python. The thought of Medusa fusing with it made him smile. Chapter 187, Medusa's Soul Fusing. Medusa's feelings toward Xiao Kun would inevitably be affected by the soul fusing. She would find herself inexplicably fond of him, just as she had been in the original story toward Xiao Yan. This had always been Xiao Kun's plan. As for the little heaven-swallowing python, the same little devouring python he'd cherished, Xiao Kun wasn't upset about it being fused into Medusa after she consumed the pill. In the original story, the python seemed to vanish when Medusa used the fallen heart flame for soul fusion, but it later reappeared as Xiao Xiao's companion spirit beast, so Xiao Kun wasn't worried about losing it. Since arriving in the Black Corner region, he'd been waiting for an opportunity to hand the soul-fusing pill to Medusa, and now, under the pretext of compensation, he finally had an excuse. "All right, no problem," he said. "Ah!" Medusa was stunned. She covered her red lips with a white jade hand and made an incredulous sound. Yan, who didn't understand what was happening, looked puzzled, and Yun and Ya Fei were equally dumbfounded. None of them expected Xiao Kun to willingly give up the little heaven-swallowing python, especially since he'd clearly treasured it. They exchanged bewildered looks. Had they misunderstood him all along? Medusa's expression, after the initial shock, turned solemn. She stared at Xiao Kun a long moment, and when she became convinced he wasn't mocking her, she asked, "Why? Isn't this the compensation you asked for? I'm willing to give it. Just take it." Xiao Kun didn't offer an explanation. He simply handed her the pill. Medusa still doubted him, but she had no choice. No matter his motives, she couldn't refuse the soul-fusing pill she had longed for. With heavy reluctance, she accepted it. "Are you sure this is the soul-fusing pill?" she asked, examining it carefully. "If you don't believe me, take it back," Xiao Kun said, feigning reluctance as he reached for the pill. "Humph, dream on." Medusa snorted, but Xiao Kun's expression of regret eased her suspicion somewhat. She put the pill away. She knew he wasn't the kind to deceive. It was just too strange. The atmosphere briefly grew awkward until Yun broke it with concern. "Xiao Kun, did you gain anything from your seclusion?" "I did. My strength advanced to the late-stage Dozun realm. From now on, we won't have to fear anyone in the Northwest continent." Late-stage Dozun. Even at the Dozun level, your progress can be that fast? Yun and Ya Fei both exclaimed. Yun felt a stab of unease at how slowly her own advancement had slowed after reaching Dozong. If not for Xiao Kun's pills, it might take her years to gain a single star. Even with the pills, nobody could explain how Xiao Kun had climbed 6 or 7 stars in a month. Since Xiao Kun had never told them about his cultivation technique, they were right to be surprised. Seeing they would be allies going forward, Xiao Kun explained the nature of his cultivation, a technique that could advance infinitely, and coupled with several high-ranked heavenly flames, it allowed phenomenal progress. Yun absorbed this silently and felt shaken. Now she understood why his rise had been so rapid. Medusa, learning he had become late-stage Dozun and possessed a heaven-defying technique, felt both astonished and alarmed. The stronger he became, the harder it would be to escape his influence. Committed now to refining the soul-fusing pill, she bid the others goodbye and went to begin the process. While the others talked, Xiao Kun learned that during his seclusion, the sky-burning Qi refining tower at Jianan Academy had resumed operations. Su Qian had announced that the new fallen heart flame had been a gift from Xiao Kun, and the academy praised him. Xiao Yan, however, remained in seclusion with no news. A week later, as Xiao Kun consolidated the slight instability brought on by his rapid breakthrough, a terrifying burst of aura, equivalent to a 4-star Dozong, flared briefly and then faded. Xiao Kun felt it. Medusa. He knew this commotion likely marked the completion of her soul fusing, and he walked straight to her room. Yun and Ya Fei, drawn by the disturbance, accompanied him. Yan had already been with Medusa the whole time, since she didn't need to cultivate in the usual way and simply grew stronger by eating. When the three entered, they saw joy on Medusa's face, but it didn't last. The moment she recognized Xiao Kun, she frowned, her beautiful eyes filled with helplessness and confusion. Yun and the others hesitated, wondering if Xiao Kun had somehow offended Medusa while she was in seclusion. Only Xiao Kun felt a surge of satisfaction. This was exactly what he'd predicted. It had happened just as he'd expected. Right after completing soul fusing, Medusa had felt elation at finally being able to control her body again, but the joy quickly curdled. Seeing Xiao Kun triggered an overwhelming rush of attachment and closeness she couldn't control, and she felt intensely embarrassed by her own feelings. She almost wished she had never taken the pill. Previously, she had only lacked control of her body, but now even her emotions were betraying her. Seeing the trace of joy on Xiao Kun's face, she snapped angrily. "You knew this would happen, didn't you? That's why you gave me the soul-fusing pill." Chapter 188, 5 Months. The question made Yun and the others turn to Xiao Kun. He obviously couldn't admit anything. If he did, they would swarm him and he wouldn't sleep peacefully for a long time. Thinking quickly, he raised a hand in dismissal and put on an air of indignation. "What happened? The pill was fine. Why do you all look so gloomy?" He paused, then continued before Medusa could answer. "Even if there really was an accident, don't blame it on me. Giving up the little heaven-swallowing python was painful enough for me already." Xiao Kun's show of righteous indignation slowly eased some of the anger on Medusa's face and replaced it with doubt. Perhaps Xiao Kun truly hadn't known. Their case was an extremely rare one, after all, and it was likely he was unaware. Besides, he had already surrendered the little heaven-swallowing python for her. He shouldn't be acting like this. Medusa mulled it over and decided not to jump to conclusions. Her gaze toward Xiao Kun softened slightly, which only proved how convincingly he could lie. Embarrassed to admit her true feelings, Medusa replied vaguely, "The pill is fine. I felt a little uncomfortable just now, maybe a side effect of the initial soul fusion. It should pass in a couple of days. I was just a bit emotional." "That's good to hear." Xiao Kun restrained himself from saying anything else. Yun and the others' doubts faded when Medusa said she was unwell, and they crowded around to show concern. The scene became warm and pleasant, and Xiao Kun watched with satisfaction. Then Xian's question froze the room. "Sister Dusa, you said before you'd go back to the Snake People tribe once your soul issue was resolved. When are you leaving? I need to prepare." Xian and Medusa were close. Medusa had told her about wanting to return. Xian's innocent worry stunned everyone into silence. Medusa, a little embarrassed, looked thoughtful. She had been desperate to return to the tribe before, but after fusing with the little devouring python's soul, that urge had faded. Increasingly, she found herself wanting to stay by Xiao Kun's side, an idea that made her shiver. Unwilling to confess her true feelings, she improvised, "There's nothing urgent back at the tribe, and this journey has broadened my horizons. I'm not rushing home." Xian brightened instantly. "Ha, that's great. I was worried we'd be separated right away." Yun and Yafei exchanged puzzled looks. They both remembered how much Medusa had wanted to return and wondered what had suddenly changed, but it wasn't the time to push. Xiao Kun, however, was not surprised. He suspected the little heaven-swallowing python's soul was influencing Medusa. After a little more conversation, everyone went to their rooms. On the surface, Xiao Kun could have returned to the Jiama Empire. He'd achieved several goals in the Black Corner region, but he decided to stay. He realized he hadn't spent enough time with Xian. Their bond still needed nurturing. Xiao Yan had not yet emerged from seclusion, and Xiao Kun wanted to greet him before leaving. He also planned to create a fixed spatial passage near the Jiama capital and the Jianan Academy to allow regular exchange and help develop the Xiao family. Building such a passage required enormous amounts of materials, though, and even in resource-rich Black Corner region, it would take time to gather them. With those considerations, he put off his departure and assigned the Gan Alliance the job of collecting the construction materials. Over the following months, Xiao Kun focused on deepening his relationship with Xian, giving her medicinal pills when needed, and consolidating his cultivation. 5 months passed. Morning sunlight sliced into the bright room in a rectangular beam, touching the green lotus seat where Xiao Kun sat cross-legged. He sensed a familiar aura, someone at the 5-star Dohuang level, approaching the pavilion, and smiled slightly. Xiao Yan had emerged from seclusion. Everyone else had made notable progress during those 5 months. Yafei improved the fastest. With the help of the Fire Spirit Orb and the Zhenghuang pill, she rose nearly 1 star per month and was now a 7-star Dohuang. Yun and Medusa, already powerful Dozong experts, advanced more slowly. Each of them rose 2 stars and reached the 6-star Dozong realm. Xian broke through to Dohuang as well. Thanks to the many medicinal pills Xiao Kun gave her, her internal energy filled rapidly, and she completed the breakthrough in just 3 months instead of stalling for nearly a year like in other tales. The extra pills had also brought Xian and Xiao Kun closer. Xiao Kun himself had no obvious leveling up in strength, but he had used the time to stabilize his previously precarious realm after his rapid breakthrough following the Heavenly Flame's refinement. He was now only a hair's breadth away from a breakthrough to the 9-star Du Zun realm, something he believed he could achieve in a week or 2. The Gan Alliance completed the material gathering mission a month earlier. Bolstered by Xiao Kun's support, an influential Dozun expert, the Gan Alliance grew rapidly in the Black Corner region. In only 5 months, their territory had eclipsed long-established Dozong forces like the Black Emperor sect. The Gan Alliance became the region's top power, second only to the Jianan Academy. Chapter 189, Building a Fixed Spatial Passage. As Xiao Kun reflected on how much had changed over the past 5 months, Xiao Yan's figure arrived beside the pavilion. Xiao Kun wasted no time and went out to greet him. Yun and the others followed close behind. When Xiao Kun saw Medusa, he nodded and smiled. Thanks to the influence of the little heaven swallowing python's soul over those months, Medusa's relationship with him had improved considerably. Now she returned his greeting with a polite smile and nod, no longer wearing the hostile expression she had shown before. After meeting at the gate, everyone exchanged warm greetings for a while. It was only half an hour later that Xiao Kun and Xiao Yan remained alone to talk. Xiao Kun admitted he wasn't clear on how to construct a fixed spatial passage and invited the knowledgeable Yao Lao into the conversation to explain. After Yao Lao's explanation, Xiao Kun realized he had seriously underestimated the complexity. Building a permanent spatial passage required not only the power of a high-level Dozun and the necessary materials, but also a secret technique inscribed on the passage's entrance structure that allowed any opening created by a Dozun to be made permanent. Yao Lao happened to possess that secret technique, and grateful to Xiao Kun for giving him Hanfeng earlier, gifted the technique to him free of charge. Afterward, Yao Lao left the 2 brothers alone. Xiao Yanzi, Xiao Kun asked, your strength is already high enough to graduate from Jianan Academy. What are your plans? Third brother, Suner was taken to the Central Plains by members of her family. I have to go after her. Suner said it's best if my strength reaches the Dozong level first. With the medicinal pill you gave me, I think I can reach Dozong within a year. I plan to stay in the Black Corner region for another year and then head to the Central Plains. That's fine. The Central Plains is full of experts. It's better to go there stronger. If possible, I'd prefer you wait a few more years. Reaching Dozun would be even better. That would take too long. I'm afraid Suner won't wait. Xiao Kun listened and realized Xiao Yan would be heading to the Central Plains over 2 years earlier than in the original sequence of events. He couldn't help but wonder how that change would alter what Xiao Yan experienced. After talking a while longer, the 2 parted. With almost everything settled, only the fixed spatial passage remained. Xiao Kun spent the evening practicing the secret technique Yao Lao had taught him. The next day, he went straight to the Gan Alliance headquarters near Jianan Academy to set up the passage. Because of the Gan Alliance's friendly ties with Jianan Academy, their headquarters had been built in the city nearest the academy within the Black Corner region. After a short flight, he arrived at a city with walls hundreds of meters high and the bold characters Gan City carved over the gate. From the air, the city bustled with activity, except for one oddity. A central plaza stood completely empty of buildings, an unusual sight in a place where land was extremely valuable. Residents had long speculated what the Gan Alliance planned to erect there. In truth, that empty space had been cleared specifically for Xiao Kun to construct the fixed spatial passage. Xiao Kun teleported to the center of the plaza and appeared before Yuan Yi, the former Eight Gates sect master, who now served as a vice leader of the Gan Alliance and city lord. Yuan Yi's face lit with joy and surprise at Xiao Kun's arrival. After hearing Xiao Kun describe his work over the last few months, Yuan Yi immediately handed over the materials they had collected for the passage's construction. Pleased with Yuan Yi's performance, Xiao Kun encouraged him to advance to Dozong quickly so he could be of better use, and then handed over a special Zhenghuang pill as an extra reward. Xiao Kun had originally promised to give them a medicinal pill each year, so this was an unexpected bonus. Yuan Yi was ecstatic. Understanding Xiao Kun's purpose, Yuan Yi immediately had guards posted around the plaza to keep unauthorized people away. Xiao Kun disliked being watched while working, so he was satisfied that Yuan Yi had taken initiative without being asked. After the Gan Alliance personnel fully encircled the plaza, Xiao Kun materialized in its center. The ground was bare stone slabs. A 300-strong force stood at the ready, each cultivator at Dew Master level or above, and their leaders 2 Dew Kings. They all wore silver robes with the character Gan embroidered on their chests, looking sharp and imposing. As members of the Gan Alliance, they were familiar with Xiao Kun's appearance. None were surprised by his sudden appearance. When he scanned them, they bowed one after another in deference. Xiao Kun poured the construction materials into the plaza in a heap nearly 6 zhang high. He spread potent soul power over the pile, and the materials began to sort themselves as if manipulated by an invisible giant hand. Dark golden karma flames surged up, melting ore and other components, what would have taken even a fire attribute Dohuang hours, into a metal door frame and base, roughly 10 zhang in size, within a minute. After they cooled, Xiao Kun used his soul power to position and secure the frame, then employed Do Qi and the special materials to inscribe the secret technique onto it. To onlookers, the inscription appeared as dazzling, intricate patterns. Much of the half-day he spent was simply waiting for metal to cool, but the effect was spectacular. The finished semicircular metal door frame, including its base, stood 11 zhang tall on the clean plaza. Mysterious patterns covered the frame, and energy flashed within them from time to time. Though the guards could not probe his exact cultivation, Xiao Kun's terrifying Dozun reputation was already ingrained in their minds. One reason they were so loyal to the Gan Alliance. Watching him work, they were both shocked by his bizarre methods, how he used soul power and a dark golden flame that made space itself ripple, and gained a clearer sense of the gulf between themselves and a Dozun. Their respect for him deepened. When everything was in place, Xiao Kun continuously poured spatial power, now mastered to a high degree, into the metal frame. The hollow center of the frame gradually filled with a silver spatial energy that thickened until it solidified into a tangible, shimmering barrier. Chapter 190, Heading to the Demon Flame Valley. With the spatial gate on the Jianan Academy side fixed, the link was nearly complete. All they needed now was for Xiao Kun to return to the Jiama Empire and set up the corresponding gate there, and the 2 places would be able to connect and trade. The power seeping from the metal frame wasn't the usual black of an active spatial gate yet. Only after the 2 ends were linked would the passage turn that ink-black color and look like a wormhole. The personnel stationed there, sensing the massive spatial power within the frame, became even more convinced of Xiao Kun's Dozun strength. Manufacturing a spatial gate and the inner workings of a Dozun were not things ordinary people ever witnessed. In the Black Corner region, only Tianya City had a spatial tunnel straight to the Central Plains. Almost no other places had such a thing. To have seen a gate built in person was something to brag about. After the gate was completed, Xiao Kun vanished in a flash under the astonished gazes of the onlookers. He trusted City Lord Yuan Yi to handle the rest. Having not enjoyed much leisure, he decided to take advantage of the outing. He disguised himself slightly and walked the streets as an ordinary person. Thanks to the Gan Alliance, the city was unusually prosperous and orderly for the Black Corner region. As he strolled, Xiao Kun didn't see a single street brawl, an uncommon sight. The peace also meant more people, especially women, were out and about. Tired from walking, he settled at a window seat in an inn, drinking tea and snacking while watching the bustling street below. 2 men in silver-white Gan Alliance robes sat nearby, and their conversation drifted over to him. "It seems the Demon Flame Valley has been causing us trouble lately," one said. Just yesterday, a small team on an external mission was ambushed and wiped out by them, the other replied. Where does a sect whose top fighter is only a dozong get the nerve to provoke us? If they anger the Alliance head, won't he simply wipe them out? A dozun, that's a true expert, the first agreed. I heard they even issued a warrant for the Alliance head about half a year ago. But once the Alliance head's achievements at Jianan Academy were publicized, the Demon Flame Valley withdrew that warrant and kept a low profile for a long time. And now they actually dare to confront the Gan Alliance directly. Could they have found a powerful ally? An ally? Do you really think they found a dozun? If they had that kind of backing, they wouldn't have waited so long to show it. Sounds like they're courting death. You're right. Hearing his name, Xiao Kun smiled inwardly. He remembered the Demon Flame Valley. At the Eight Gates auction, he had casually incinerated the Grand Elder's grandson, who had been lecherous toward Yunyun and the others, and afterward, the valley had issued a warrant on him in revenge. Why they would be brazen enough to offend the Gan Alliance now, he couldn't fathom. Still, he decided he would go to the Demon Flame Valley before returning to the Jiama Empire. If the valley was bold enough to challenge the Gan Alliance, he would make an example of them, punish them in a way that would deter future provocations. More pragmatically, the Demon Flame Valley possessed a secret method for refining the heavenly demon puppet. With the corpse and soul of an expert above the dozong level, they could forge battle puppets at dozong or even dozun caliber. If Xiao Kun could take that technique and a suitable corpse, he could create extremely powerful puppets. If luck favored him and he produced even 2 Do Sheng-grade puppets, he could stroll through the Central Plains without fear. Convinced the trip was necessary, Xiao Kun went straight to City Lord Yuan Yi's quarters. He explained his plans and instructed him to prepare the takeover arrangements for the cities that would be left leaderless after the valley's destruction. I was looking into the Demon Flame Valley myself, Yuan Yi said, barely hiding his excitement. With the Alliance head taking action personally, they'll surely be annihilated. Leave the aftermath to me. I'll arrange everything properly. Yuan Yi's smile was broad. If Xiao Kun destroyed the Demon Flame Valley, the Gan Alliance's influence would grow significantly. As Vice Alliance head, Yuan Yi would benefit greatly. Increased prestige, more experts attracted to their banner, and greater access to resources. In his mind, a dozun was unbeatable in the Black Corner region. Failure wasn't a thought he entertained. Xiao Kun paid little attention to those expectations. After giving his orders, he set off for Jianan Academy. It was afternoon. Yunyun and Yafei, the 2 women, were in the pavilion, concentrating on cultivation. Ziyan and Medusa, by contrast, were exceptional prodigies. With each medicinal pill or energy-rich item they consumed, their cultivation could leap forward. Bored and restless, they had wandered off somewhere unknown. Xiao Kun and the others were a little envious. Being able to gain strength simply by eating was a dream many cultivators harbored. That evening, when everyone had gathered, Xiao Kun told them his plan. No one objected to attacking the Demon Flame Valley. All volunteered to go. Ziyan was the most enthusiastic. Having been cooped up at Jianan Academy for years, she was eager for adventure and growth. The next day, after bidding farewell to Suqian and Xiao Yan, the group left the place they had stayed for half a year. One by one, they stepped into the spatial gate. Xiao Kun had opened and vanished. Suqian felt some reluctance at Ziyan's departure, but he knew that traveling with Xiao Kun would accelerate her growth and give her a better chance of returning to her clan. So all he could offer was concern and blessings. Watching Xiao Kun's retreating back, he murmured, "With a prodigy like this, who knows what the Northwest Continent and the Black Corner region will look like in the future?" The Demon Flame Valley lay in a vast basin surrounded by mountain ranges in the northern Black Corner region. The valley's settlement was almost as large as the major cities in the area. Its population was mainly composed of outer members, while elite personnel made up about 1/10 of the total. Chapter 191, Earth Demon Old Ghost Demon Flame. Valley's population was evident from the distance. The place had long been a legacy of the Black Corner region and counted among its established powers. It was the destination of Xiao Kun and his companions on this trip. A quarter of an hour later, a 10-meter-long rift tore open in the void realm near the valley. Only someone of Dozun caliber or higher could open such a spatial passage. 5 figures, 1 man and 4 women, stepped through. The moment Xiao Kun emerged, he immediately scanned their surroundings. When nothing untoward appeared, he let his guard down slightly. He had been cautious because Demon Flame Valley's odd behavior might have been a ploy. They could have provoked the Gan Alliance to lure Xiao Kun here. If there were a hidden Dozun waiting in ambush, Ya Fei and the others would be in grave danger if Xiao Kun couldn't shield them in time. The thought of suffering a concealed loss when his strength was so dominant was unthinkable. Once he was satisfied, there was no ambush. Xiao Kun and his group flew confidently toward the valley entrance. From a distance, Xiao Kun noticed that the valley looked as if it had been carved straight out of the mountain peak. The area around it was strewn with deep black rocks that shimmered faintly with metallic luster. Ink steel stones, incredibly hard and able to withstand several attacks from a Do King without damage. The valley's dark interior suggested a mining operation. Overall, it formed a terrain easy to defend and difficult to assault, formidable against Do Kings and even Do Huangs, but meaningless against Xiao Kun and his party. As they approached, Xiao Kun saw the valley entrance was heavily guarded. Several hundred people had been stationed there, including numerous Doulings and several huge ballista war chariots aimed at repelling Do King and Do Huang assaults. The bolts on those chariots were as thick as a child's arm, flashing cold light in the sun. The defenses alone were enough to make an ordinary Do Huang hesitate. Because Demon Flame Valley was so prepared, the moment Xiao Kun and his group appeared, the people at the entrance reacted instantly. Perhaps they had been warned beforehand. They did not bother to ask names. Instead, they leveled their war chariots and every weapon capable of threatening Xiao Kun's group at them. Alarms and shrill shouts rang out, warning the valley that dangerous enemies had arrived. 3 of the 5 in Xiao Kun's party were visibly walking through the air, and the hundreds at the gate immediately took up battle stances as several thousand more surged forward to the entrance. Among them, over 20 figures floating in the sky were Do Kings or stronger. Yet despite the show of force, Xiao Kun noticed many of them were trembling. They understood plainly that if Xiao Kun and his companions in the air launched even a small attack, the defenders would be slaughtered. That knowledge made many uneasy. Yun stepped forward, analyzing the scene. They must have expected us. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so openly hostile toward 3 experts who are at least Dozongs. Demon Flame Valley is arrogant, but not foolish, she continued. If they had acted like this all along, stronger enemies would have wiped them out long ago. Something else is going on. We must be careful. Xiao Kun nodded. They had not hidden their presence. 3 experts had been plainly visible. Yet Demon Flame Valley dared to show hostility anyway. That was audacious, and it meant something was amiss. Ziyan, brimming with confidence, smiled. They don't know Xiao Kun's true strength. They'll regret this soon enough. Xiao Kun grinned at her remark. At worst, they've brought in a Dozun ally. They'll pay for underestimating us. As they spoke, the defenders continued to swarm the entrance. At the front of the formation floated a gaunt, blood-haired old man in a yellow robe patterned with skulls. His face was almost skeletal. Sunken eyes glowed faintly like ghost fire. He hovered there, emanating a Dozong aura, clearly the earth demon old ghost of Demon Flame Valley. Behind him stood 3 elderly men, all at peak Do Huang's strength. The 3 grand elders whose authority was second only to the earth demon old ghost. One of those grand elders stared at Xiao Kun with a look of hatred so fierce it was obvious. Xiao Kun recognized the fury and guessed it was Fang Yan, the grandfather whose grandson Xiao Kun had slain. Fang Yan stepped forward, face twisted with rage. "You people are vicious and merciless," he shouted. "My grandson was only a bit reckless, and you killed him in cold blood. And now you dare to come to my Demon Flame Valley. You're courting death." Xiao Kun merely smiled at the outburst. Fang Yan grew more furious at his calmness, but before he could continue, a withered hand pressed down upon his arm. It was the earth demon old ghost, still smiling as he addressed Xiao Kun. Venerable Xiao Kun's reputation has spread across the Black Corner region for some time, the old man said. We have long admired you. Seeing you now, I confess the Venerable is surprisingly young. It is hard to believe you already possess the cultivation of a dozun. He let the words hang. But, if you would permit, I would like to spar a little. As he spoke, the earth demon Old Ghost's aura surged, sending waves of qi rippling outward and forcing the people of Demon Flame Valley, including Fang Yan, to involuntarily step back. The Old Ghost had stared at Xiao Kun for a long time. Because of the breath-concealing jade pendant Xiao Kun wore, he had been unable to gauge Xiao Kun's true depth. Clinging to the sliver of hope that Xiao Kun might be a genuine dozun, he wanted to test him. Chapter 192. The battle begins. Xiao Kun really did look far too young. To ordinary eyes who had never seen him in person, it was hard to believe he could possess the cultivation of a dozun. As the earth demon Old Ghost prepared to strike, Xiao Kun remained calm, smiling faintly. I don't know why you dared provoke the Gan Alliance, he said. But if you don't reveal your trump card now, you won't get another chance. Provided, of course, that you've already become a dozun, the earth demon Old Ghost snarled in reply. With that, he roared. Black, biting dew chi exploded from his form and condensed into countless thumb-thick cones of black ice around him. The cold spread fast. The air above Demon Flame Valley chilled abruptly. Ice crystals formed in the brightness of the clear day and began to fall. The sight of snow under the noon sun made everyone shiver. Thousand illusions, profound ice thorns. The black ice cones blurred into streaks and shot straight for Xiao Kun and his group. Each cone looked insignificant, but the energy packed into one was enough to kill a Do Huang. There were hundreds, perhaps thousands. Everyone in Demon Flame Valley watched with bated breath, waiting to see what damage this killing strike would do. Xiao Kun only waved his hand. In an instant, a 30-meter-tall, dark golden amethyst-winged Lion King materialized before him. The beast's terrifying aura rivaled that of a late-stage Duzong. As Xiao Kun's strength increased and his mastery of the flame sculpting technique deepened, he no longer needed hand seals to create demonic beasts far weaker than himself. The amethyst-winged Lion King simply stood there. The countless ice cones struck its dark golden hide and turned to steam on contact, dissipating into the void realm with no effect. The multitude of lethal projectiles accomplished nothing. The onlookers were dumbfounded. That single display, so easily neutralizing the earth demon Old Ghost's attack, made many begin to suspect Xiao Kun's dozun power was genuine. The valley, which had been suddenly snowing, was hot again. The forest below began to wilt, leaves browned and withered under the intense heat. The air grew stifling, and the people of Demon Flame Valley sweated from fear and heat alike. Even the earth demon Old Ghost, whose body still shimmered with black cold chi, could not help but let a drop of cold sweat slide down his forehead. Heavenly flame, and a very high-ranked one, he muttered, shocked. His own cold dew chi, the dark, chilling kind, was being suppressed. Seeing that the amethyst-winged Lion King was composed of karma fire of living beings, the circulation of do chi in his body strangely slowed. Every time he stared at the beast, his soul prickled with danger. Although Xiao Kun had not fully revealed the power of a dozun, the earth demon Old Ghost understood that close combat with a demonic beast formed from a heavenly flame would be a one-way ticket to incineration. So the beast, having absorbed the strike, beat its massive wings and charged. The wind screamed as it bore down on the earth demon Old Ghost like a second sun. Sensing a searing heat approaching and watching the black extreme cold chi on his surface vaporize, the earth demon Old Ghost kicked hard against the void realm and pulled away. He began to flee, using everything he had to increase the distance. But the amethyst-winged Lion King was a flying demonic beast whose strength was no weaker than the earth demon Old Ghost's. It would not be shaken off easily. Breaths passed, and the Old Ghost was still being doggedly pursued. He had no time to use high-tier do techniques, only quick, low-level methods to keep a buffer between them. More than once, the beast drew so close that holes burned in the neatly hemmed robe the Old Ghost wore. Watching the cat-and-mouse chase, Xiao Kun smiled faintly. Earth demon Old Ghost, your empty words won't help. If you don't show something extraordinary soon, don't blame me for being impolite. A red sword quietly appeared in his hand, the red flame sword, already unsealed to the 8th tier. After a small flourish, an early Dozun aura burst from him, making the surrounding space tremble. Seeing him grow serious, Yunyun and the others stepped back several paces, giving Xiao Kun room. A Dozun, voices rose across Demon Flame Valley. The overwhelming aura oppressed everyone, sapping the will to resist. Fang Yan, eyes dulled by thoughts of revenge, felt the crushing truth. A Dozun could crush him like an ant. For a heartbeat, he despaired, then his expression brightened. The old ancestor must have a way, he muttered. He couldn't have ordered this without a plan. When news first spread that Xiao Kun might be a Dozun, they intended to lie low. Yet, for some unknown reason, the Earth Demon Old Ghost had suddenly ordered the attack on the Gan Alliance. The Old Ghost's confidence at the time convinced Fang Yan that he must have some means to deal with a Dozun. With that thought, hope flickered in Fang Yan's eyes as he watched the fleeing Old Ghost. The Earth Demon Old Ghost, seeing that Xiao Kun had only displayed an early Dozun level of cultivation, showed a flash of shock, but no panic. If anything, there was a faint, cruel joy. "Brat," he hissed even as he fled, "don't think a Dozun breakthrough makes you invincible. The world is larger than you know. You'll pay for your arrogance soon enough." His threat, delivered as he scrambled to escape, sounded ridiculous. After the words, his gaze flicked to the women behind Xiao Kun, and a hint of cruelty glinted in his deep eyes. Chapter 193, Slaughtering the Demon Flame Valley Members. Having rampaged through the Black Corner region for years, the Earth Demon Old Ghost wasn't used to being humiliated. He absolutely had to make Xiao Kun suffer to vent his own anger. Humph, young people are always so full of vigor. Bringing so many beauties along on an adventure, that's enviable. But if someone snatches them away, we'll see how you like that, he sneered. The threat made Xiao Kun frown, and it sparked fury among the women at his back. Xian barked, "You old geezer, keep talking and I'll smash your mouth." Xiao Kun's face darkened. He no longer hesitated. Channeling his vast Do Chi, he raised the red flame sword over his head and formed a series of precise hand seals. In an instant, the seals were complete and the sword trembled, splitting into countless dark golden energy sword clones that filled the sky above Demon Flame Valley. The light from the blade washed the surrounding miles in a sinister gold. "Go," Xiao Kun commanded. At his flick, tens of thousands of energy swords fell like a sudden torrential downpour. Each one carried the force to seriously injure an ordinary Zong. The sight terrified the valley below and even changed the Earth Demon Old Ghost's expression from smug to startled. Xiao Kun, however, watched with satisfaction. This was his Earth rank advanced sword Do technique, Sword 3, Rain Sword, the first time he'd used it in combat, and it exceeded his expectations. The Earth Demon Old Ghost thought quickly, "I can't withstand this. Even if I survive, I'll be badly wounded and useless afterward. Why hasn't that brat struck directly at me yet?" He scanned his surroundings but saw no one approaching to help. His face hardened. There was no time for more thought. As he fled, he drew a harsh breath, and his skin flushed strangely. A hissing sound followed as black cold chi erupted from his pores, tinged faintly with crimson, making the chill even more grim. "Blood chill extreme freeze heaven," he roared. The black cold chi exploded outward, blanketing the dozens of meters around him and instantly lowering the temperature in the valley, relief, at least, for those weaker cultivators who had been forced to constantly circulate Do Chi against the strange heat. The black cloud solidified into a hard, jet-black crystal, radiating intense cold. Concealed inside, the Earth Demon Old Ghost's figure froze. The amethyst-winged Lion King struck a palm at the crystal, but only shattered a 3-meter section. It would take a dozen such attacks to dig him out. That defensive strength was only possible because the strange fire had been suppressed. An ordinary late-stage Duzong blow would likely have little effect. Then the sword rain that had forced the Old Ghost's defense fell silent overhead. The Demon Flame Valley members watched, praying their old ancestor could hold. But what came next made mouths fall open in disbelief. The tens of thousands of dark golden swords did not strike the black crystal. Instead, they swept past it and plunged down into the crowd below. They were aimed directly at the valley members. Thousands of people froze in shock. Only a handful of Dohong experts could still circulate Do Qi to brace themselves. The rest, thousands strong, including several Do kings, lost the will to resist as the swords closed in. Under Xiao Kun's control, the swords precisely targeted each person. Because he could afford to overflow the number of blades, he allocated many more to the more powerful enemies, dozens for each Do king, hundreds for each Do Huang. Fang Yan, a peak Do Huang, tried to resist. Really, he tried to run. Pushing his body beyond safe limits with an overdraft secret technique, he attained the speed of an ordinary Dozong and tore away in a streak of light. But Xiao Kun's energy swords were faster. In a single breath, hundreds of blades cut Fang Yan into pieces. Others suffered the same fate. The valley filled with the stench of blood as limbs and bodies were torn apart. It was the first time Xiao Kun had slaughtered so many people at once. The heavy smell of iron made him frown slightly, but he had come intending to eradicate Demon Flame Valley. In a Xuanhuan world full of chances, cutting the grass and removing the roots was the safest course, and in his mind, the valley harbored no good people anyway. Yun and the others understood and offered no objections. After the massacre, Xiao Kun extended his soul power. Thousands of storage rings from the fallen converged into his hand, and he swept them into his system space. Task complete, his gaze returned to the black crystal high above. The crystal, which had consumed a tremendous amount of the Earth Demon Old Ghost's strength, began to melt slowly, revealing his exhausted face. Hidden inside, he had barely perceived anything of the outside world. He had waited a long while before emerging because he feared Xiao Kun might be luring him into a trap. An attack stored up and unleashed the moment he poked his head out. His defensive Do technique, once cast, needed no active maintenance. Staying sealed inside let him recover Do Qi. Now, finally emerging, the Earth Demon Old Ghost scanned the devastation and recognized what had been done. His withered face twisted into ferocity. Xiao Kun saw the old ghost's miserable state and smiled. This was exactly the result he had wanted. Who had told the old man to be so arrogant and threaten him? Chapter 194, Venerable Yin. Watching Xiao Kun cut down the elites of Demon Flame Valley, the Earth Demon Old Ghost screamed in furious agony. Xiao Kun's onslaught had effectively reduced Demon Flame Valley to a shell. As the leader of a long-established sect, the Earth Demon Old Ghost felt the weight of honor and duty crushing him. How could he face his ancestors now? Worse, among the thousands below had been many of his own blood, all slaughtered by Xiao Kun. His ribcage heaved. Hatred darkened his eyes until it was almost palpable. Xiao Kun, how dare you do this? I, Earth Demon Old Ghost, will never forgive you. I will make you watch your family and clan be destroyed. You're courting death. Xiao Kun roared and waved his right hand. Dark golden strange flames surged out and coalesced into two 30-meter-tall amethyst-winged lion kings. With the one he already had, 3 late-stage Duzong amethyst-winged lion kings now filled the sky. At Xiao Kun's flick, the 3 beasts beat their massive wings and, with a gale, encircled the Earth Demon Old Ghost. Confronted by 3 amethyst-winged lion kings, the Earth Demon Old Ghost's expression collapsed. He ceased his bluster, shifted form, and fled, abandoning the old, weak, sick, and disabled left in Demon Flame Valley. 1 amethyst-winged lion king had already made his escape look hopeless. 3 meant doom. But speed was not his strength. The 3 beasts quickly closed in, hemming him in on all sides. Xiao Kun stood composed in the Void Realm, arms folded, watching with a half-smile. The amethyst-winged lion kings formed by flame sculpting were weaker than human experts of the same rank. They lacked Do techniques, which greatly amplify a fighter's power. Yet the augmentation of strange flames made them a deterrent few would willingly face. Take the Earth Demon Old Ghost. He looked as if he wished for death. What puzzled Xiao Kun was why the Earth Demon Old Ghost, with his current plight, hadn't yet used any secret trump card. The Earth Demon Old Ghost had his own concerns. Besieged by the 3 karma fire of living beings, amethyst-winged lion kings, he had to pour enormous Do Qi into defending against even their ordinary strikes. After blasting his supposed ultimate earlier, his Do Qi was near spent. There was little left to resist such relentless consumption. His only hope lay in the mysterious Dozun who had promised aid when Xiao Kun attacked. They had agreed the Dozun would not be summoned. He would appear on his own. But that arrangement no longer mattered. If he stuck to it now, he would die. Crimson from heat and exhaustion, half cooked by the strange flames as his do chi failed to shield him, the earth demon old ghost roared, his voice ringing several miles as he pushed whatever remained of his do chi into it. I can't hold on. Venerable Yin, save me. I swear to serve you forever, unquestioningly. Xiao Kun stiffened. The invocation made it clear. The would-be rescuer was a dozun. An ambush was possible. He maintained his vigilance. The three amethyst-winged lion kings operated independently and needed no guidance from him. They continued their assault. For a time, only the sounds of the battle remained. The echo of the plea faded, and Xiao Kun still did not lower his guard. The person in the shadows might be waiting for him to relax. The earth demon old ghost, however, was running out of time. A few breaths later, when his do-chi had finally dried up and his reactions slowed, a dark golden giant claw the size of a man's whole body slammed into him. Bones cracked, his body shot like a cannonball into the ground, carving a 100-meter gully as dust exploded outward. The three amethyst-winged lion kings dove and beat him mercilessly, delivering crushing blows. When the dust settled, the earth demon old ghost lay twisted. More than half his bones were broken, his eyes bulged, his chest unmoving. He had been dead some time. Xiao Kun watched the relatively intact corpse and nodded with satisfaction. He hungered for the bodies and souls of Duzong, needed them to revive Venerable Skyfire and Yao Lao, and even the heavenly demon puppet secret art he sought required Dozong corpses and souls. When the earth demon old ghost's do chi had been exhausted, the strange flames could have incinerated him outright. But under Xiao Kun's orders, the amethyst-winged lion kings had controlled the flame's temperature, beating the old ghost to death so his body remained whole. Just as Xiao Kun prepared to have an amethyst-winged lion king retrieve the corpse, he noticed a spatial disturbance nearby. The three lion kings, mid-movement, froze like statues. A black-robed figure flashed beside the earth demon old ghost and, with a flick of his right hand, drew the corpse into his grasp. There was a reason the stranger chose that moment to appear. He didn't care about Demon Flame Valley. Letting them test or consume some of Xiao Kun's methods could be useful. He intended to use an extremely powerful concealment to launch a surprise attack when Xiao Kun relaxed, deciding the matter in one stroke. But Xiao Kun had been too vigilant. Even with the best concealment, the stranger couldn't get close to a dozun who was carefully observing. Left with no better option, he seized the opportunity to appear when there was advantage to be gained. A dozong's soul is a rare thing, not a wasted trip after all, the black-robed man chuckled as he vanished with the corpse. Author's note, regarding a previous error, thanks to reader Tianzui for the correction. The sect leader of the 8 Gates was named incorrectly earlier. It is not Guangzhan but Yuanyi, City Lord. The content has been corrected. My apologies for the mistake. Chapter 195, Battling Venerable Yin. As he spoke, the black-robed man reached into the corpse of the earth demon old ghost and pulled out a phantom image identical to the fallen spirit, tucking it into a black cloth bag. Xiao Kun watched without rushing. As long as Hun Tiandi himself did not appear and there was no ambush, he was confident he could kill this enemy. He let the black-robed man savor his arrogance for a moment. The Hall of Souls, trademark chuckle, only made Xiao Kun inwardly sigh. That institution truly had a penchant for theatrics. Yun, who had once suffered under Protector Wu of the Hall of Souls, furrowed her brow and spat a scornful remark. Yafei and Medusa nodded in agreement. Judging by his aura, he's not even an early dozun. Are you sure Xiao Kun can handle him? Medusa asked with concern. She and the others had never seen a dozun up close, and Xiao Kun normally concealed his chi. Don't worry, one of the women said. He's only a mid-stage dozun. Hearing that, the others relaxed. They knew Xiao Kun had already reached late-stage dozun and had many tricks up his sleeve. Only Ziyan looked puzzled. She had never heard of the Hall of Souls, but she nodded along anyway, trying not to look out of place. With a dull thud, the black-robed man tossed the earth demon old ghost's corpse aside. Then, noticing Xiao Kun and the group, he lifted his head, revealing an old face creased with malice. So you're from the Xiao clan, one of the 8 ancient families. Even dying, you managed to produce such a prodigy. Pity your luck ran out today. Otherwise, in a few years you might have brought your family back to glory. Xiao Kun said nothing to the man's taunt. Having sensed the man's cultivation was only a mid-stage dozun, he felt composed. When he recognized the same kind of aura he'd felt from Protector Wu, he spoke casually. You must be Venerable Yin, the one the Earth Demon Old Ghost called for. From your aura, you're with the Hall of Souls, aren't you? The black-robed man chuckled. So you've met others from my hall before. Protector Wu of Jiama, perhaps? Judging by your condition, he met a gruesome end. What a waste. You were growing strong. He deserved to die. Xiao Kun's understanding of the Hall of Souls deepened. They cared little for anything but profit and influence. Ruthless and cold, they were unlike ordinary sects. He is dead, Xiao Kun replied, but I think you'll follow him soon enough. Arrogant, you say that with only early dozun-level cultivation? Venerable Yin scoffed. Xiao Kun smiled inwardly at how well the breath-concealing jade pendant had worked. Had he revealed his true 8-star dozun strength earlier, Venerable Yin likely would have fled or used a half-saint's attack. The pendant's deception had bought him a better battlefield. I'll let you see for yourself, Xiao Kun said. But one thing puzzles me. As a venerable, why come all the way out to the Black Corner region? Venerable Yin only laughed. Lucky for you that I'm speaking clearly. I'm about to complete a great merit, and the Hall of Souls' influence stretches across the continent, even here. You showed off so brazenly at Jianan Academy. Of course I noticed. Xiao Kun recalled then how in the original timeline, the Hall of Souls did have a presence in the Black Corner region. After Xiao Yan killed Han Feng, a protector had come for Han Feng's soul, though that had been months later. He hadn't expected someone like Venerable Yin to have been here all along. Still, with his current concealment, Xiao Kun appeared to be only an early dozun that would not merit a saint-grade envoy. Hence the mid-stage dozun Venerable Yin. Dangerous, but not overwhelming. Enough talk, Venerable Yin said. He flicked his sleeve, and the space around the 3 fixed amethyst-winged lion kings shuddered. A dozun's unique technique, spatial shredding, ripped at the dimension around them. The ability was devastating to dozongs and weaker cultivators, designed to tear through existence itself. Venerable Yin expected the 3 amethyst-winged lion kings to be shredded at once. Instead, he frowned. His spatial power did almost no lasting damage to the 3 constructs of strange flame. The amethyst-winged lion kings barely faltered and even began to recover as the tears in space widened. Though the strikes had seemed casual, an ordinary duzong should not have withstood them, and yet the lions only emitted a duzong's aura. The sight unnerved Venerable Yin. He remembered using far more do-chi than usual to fix those amethyst-winged lion kings earlier. At the time, he'd assumed Xiao Kun had gotten lucky with some terrifying flame attribute secret techniques. Now, watching his spatial power chunk away with almost no effect, he realized the true horror of those dark golden flames. They were rootless and problematic, but terrifyingly resilient. Venerable Yin's face darkened. Du-Chi surged as he threw his full strength into space shredding. The spatial rifts expanded, their cutting force multiplying. Only then were the late-stage dozong amethyst-winged lion kings finally torn apart. They collapsed and were swallowed into the void realm. Even after eliminating the troublesome constructs, Venerable Yin did not look pleased. With such fearsome flames in Xiao Kun's hands, he suspected the young man had more tricks to use. Still, his cultivation was higher, and once he had begun, there was no turning back. He waved his sleeve again. A metallic clatter filled the air as more than a dozen chains shot out like venomous serpents uncoiling from their lairs. Their speed was terrifying. They tore through reality itself. In an instant, the chain's barbed heads reappeared from the void beside Xiao Kun, lunging straight for the vital points around him. Chapter 196, Explosion. The rest of you, wait off to the side for now. When Venerable Yin tore apart the amethyst-winged Lion King, Xiao Kun knew the fight had truly begun. For the safety of Yun Yun and the others, he immediately ordered them to move farther away. Xiao Kun also knew the Black Corner region still hid spies from the Hall of Souls. To avoid drawing the attention of Saint-grade experts, he could only display cultivation at the early Du Zun level in this battle. He dared not use any heaven-grade techniques. That meant the fight might drag on, so it was better for Yun and the others to stay back. If he'd erupted with his full power and ended the fight instantly, they wouldn't have needed to move. All right, be careful. Yun and the others obeyed completely, retreating 1,000 meters. Xiao Kun, just in case, left a clone beside them. He finished arranging them, and Venerable Yin's black chains struck at once. Sword control. Xiao Kun stayed calm and used the Earth-rank high-grade Do technique, sword control from Sword 3, waving his red flame sword. His defense was flawless, cutting the incoming black chains aside one by one. Soul Chain, Soul Lock. The attack seemed to fail, but Venerable Yin expected as much. Both were Do-Zun experts. He formed a seal and barked a cold command. The black chains Xiao Kun had deflected slid back and formed a circle around him, knitting into a formation. Black mist coalesced, and a fierce suction force erupted. Under that suction, the soul between Xiao Kun's brows quivered. This was a Do technique aimed at the soul. Xiao Kun dared not hesitate. He formed a hand seal and drove his Do Chi outward. The karma flame of living beings broke free from his body, spreading into the surrounding mist and chains. The dark golden flame incinerated the black mist on contact and clung to the chains. They emitted high, pained shrieks, and Venerable Yin's soul-targeting technique collapsed. "Those tricks won't work on me," Xiao Kun shouted and swung the red flame sword wrapped in strange fire, carving a blade of sword chi several meters long. The fragile black chains snapped inch by inch. He then released the aura of an early Do-Zun, unfurled golden rock wings, and stomped on the void. He flashed beside Venerable Yin and aimed a vicious slash at his neck. Venerable Yin's pupils widened. Xiao Kun's speed was terrifying, but there was no time to think. Dozens of black chains shot from his sleeve, twice the number he had used before. Though the chains had proven ineffective against Xiao Kun, they could buy time. The extra weave between them stalled the attack, and after half were severed, they managed to block the blade. Explode! Relief turned Venerable Yin's face fierce. He used the remaining chains to entangle Xiao Kun as he retreated and barked another command. The black chains trembled, then detonated. With piercing wails, they released violent energy comparable to a full-strength strike from an ordinary 6-star Do-Zun. Black mist poured out. Huge ripples of force tore through the trees within 1,000 meters and pushed the already retreating Venerable Yin several meters farther back. Xiao Kun, will he be okay? Yun and the others, 1,000 meters away, had been blown back by the blast. They steadied themselves and stared toward the dissipating black mist, still shaken by the destructive force. Don't worry, the main body is fine. That blast was only about the force of a 6-star Do-Zun at full strength. It can't threaten the main body. Xiao Kun's clone, standing guard near them, replied with a smile. The reassurance calmed Yun and the others. Venerable Yin, meanwhile, glared at the black mist as it thinned, his old face twitching in pain. Those black chains had been forged from tens of thousands of souls and had taken him decades to create. Xiao Kun had shattered most of his work in only a few exchanges. If Venerable Yin could severely wound Xiao Kun, it would be worth it, so he spread the remaining chains to prevent a sneak attack and stared at Xiao Kun, watching closely. The mist finally cleared to reveal a figure in dark golden armor, sword in hand. The armor then melted away, revealing Xiao Kun completely unharmed. Relief swept across Yun and the others, while Venerable Yin's expression turned wild with disbelief. How are you unhurt? Even I would be seriously injured by that blast. How could someone at early Do-Zun be completely unscathed? As an enemy, would I tell you? Xiao Kun replied calmly. He remembered Venerable Yin's desperate move and realized that, if he hadn't possessed a cultivation far beyond what he'd displayed, he might indeed have taken some damage. The armor he had formed with flame sculpting at his 8-star Do-Zun level could withstand attacks from fighters of the same rank. His higher cultivation had made a difference. Venerable Yin's effort had failed this time. The refusal to answer only made Venerable Yin grow warier. The techniques Xiao Kun had just used were not those of an ordinary early Do-Zun. He had defended against a 6-star level blow and moved with speed Venerable Yin himself had trouble reacting to. It seems that strange flame armor blocked the blast just now, but I've never heard of such flame having that much defensive power, Venerable Yin muttered, frowning. And how did he burst out with such speed? Is it because of those unusual wings? His thoughts raced as he tried to deduce Xiao Kun's methods. After a moment, Venerable Yin reached a conclusion based on his experience and would not let it go unspoken. Your defense must be some secret technique controlling strange flames, and your speed must come from the golden wings on your back, he said aloud, unwilling to give up. Chapter 197, Defeating Venerable Yin. Venerable Yin's guess about the secret method of defense was roughly correct. He was about 80 to 90% sure why Xiao Kun suddenly moved so fast. After all, Dozun rarely used wings. His suspicion immediately fell on the golden wings on Xiao Kun's back. If that's the case, then so be it, Venerable Yin said. Xiao Kun felt a flicker of admiration. Venerable Yin had nearly hit the mark. He simply nodded in agreement. So it is. Despite being prepared, Venerable Yin was stunned. Wings capable of boosting a Dozun speed several times over were rare even among the ancient clans. And here was Xiao Kun from this remote place, possessing them. It explained how his realm had advanced so quickly, not just because of talent, but thanks to some unknown aid. The discovery both thrilled and intrigued Venerable Yin, and he prodded further. You're not relying on yourself alone for this rise, are you? Who's backing you? The ancient clan? Why would I tell you? Xiao Kun shot back. Venerable Yin scoffed. And yet you still have time for defiance. Know your place. You are the one in a desperate situation. Xiao Kun couldn't help but remark on how carefree the older man seemed despite his disadvantage. Humph. Your earlier tricks were countered. My cultivation is higher than yours. Soon it'll be your turn. You won't talk now, but once I capture you and put you through it, you'll sing. Those thoughts steadied Venerable Yin's confidence. Let's see what other abilities you have, then. Xiao Kun was done arguing. With a cold shout, he raised his sword in his right hand while forming seals with his left. Great sword art! Fighting chi surged out, and a dark gold greatsword, 100 jang long, materialized before him. Its tip pointed at Venerable Yin. Its blade looked like a red flame magnified 1,000 times. This was the Great Sword Art from Sword 3, an Earth rank, high-grade Du technique. Go! The huge blade shot forward with overwhelming pressure, tearing at the space it passed through. Venerable Yin did not hesitate. Black mist poured from his body and condensed under his control into a black giant palm of similar size. Great dark underworld palm, the palm slammed forth to meet the greatsword. The collision was like a meteor strike. A shockwave radiated out and forced both combatants to take several steps back. The clash ended in a surprising draw. Xiao Kun felt satisfied. He'd released the technique at early Dozun's strength and managed to stalemate a 4-star Dozun. Venerable Yin, however, felt his face flush with embarrassment. He had boasted of methods to suppress Xiao Kun, yet they had achieved nothing. Worse, he realized he had no clear way to deal with Xiao Kun. Without pause, the two became afterimages and resumed fighting in the air. Trading blows with such a peerless opponent sharpened Xiao Kun's combat sense, and he wasn't in a hurry to finish Venerable Yin off. He valued the man's body and soul as useful prizes. For the time being, he kept testing and learning. Half an hour passed. Their exchanges had no decisive outcome. Xiao Kun remained composed. Venerable Yin's expression grew dark. He was from the Hun clan, versed in countless profound Do techniques and of higher cultivation than Xiao Kun, yet he had not subdued him. The thought of the other elder Zuns finding out stung him deeply. Xiao Kun, meanwhile, decided it was time to end it. He didn't want to use a killing grade technique and risk damaging the body or soul he intended to seize. Parrying an incoming strike, he forced Venerable Yin back with a swing, then abruptly retreated to widen the gap. Venerable Yin was taken aback. This was the first time Xiao Kun had withdrawn like that, but he did not immediately pursue. As soon as the distance opened, Xiao Kun formed the seal for his clone technique. While Venerable Yin hesitated, 7 identical figures of Xiao Kun appeared beside him. Venerable Yin's brow tightened. Clones were not unusual on the fighting Qi continent, and a single clone to guard innocence was understandable, but 8 in total was alarming. Even if each clone was weaker than the original, their combined threat was serious. Act on the plan, Xiao Kun ordered. Yes, the figures answered. In an instant, the 8 figures, 7 clones plus the real Xiao Kun, blinked and reappeared around Venerable Yin, closing in like lightning. Under the elder's astonished gaze, all 8 raised their right index fingers and struck in unison. Heaven-severing style 1. Invisible streams of sharp chi shot toward Venerable Yin. The assault came like a sudden storm. He could only defend for a moment before the attacks found him. At the first impact, he felt his fighting chi circulation slow sharply where he had been struck. His face changed. He realized he was done. He had not expected Xiao Kun's clones to match the main body's speed and power. Venerable Yin was battered by blow after blow. His defensive responses grew sluggish. Little by little, his speed deteriorated to below the level of a dozong. More bolts of potent chi landed, and he became completely immobile, terror frozen on his face. Xiao Kun acted at once. He seized the now collapsing Venerable Yin, and with his right hand channeled majestic fighting chi, striking viciously several times at the area around Venerable Yin's heart. Chapter 198, Treasure Vault. The heavy blow landed with a crisp crack, and Venerable Yin's chest collapsed inward. He spat blood from the corner of his mouth, veins bulging on his face, and within moments his body went still. Xiao Kun didn't hesitate. He unleashed the fallen heart flame, the flame that subdues souls, and a sucking force burst from his hand, pulling Venerable Yin's soul free. Xiao Kun, you brat, I admit defeat today, but the power of the Hall of Souls is beyond your imagination. You'll meet the same fate as me soon enough. Venerable Yin spat out, desperate. You might not even keep your corpse, he added, reckless and cursing as his soul was being taken. Xiao Kun had no patience for a dying man's words. He found that Venerable Yin's soul still possessed the strength of a peak duzong, so he used the fallen heart flame to roast and weaken it without mercy. The screams that came from Venerable Yin's soul were agonizing. The flame burned like a curse, and in a short time his soul shrank to the size of a finger and was on the verge of vanishing. Satisfied, Xiao Kun sealed the tiny, blackened soul inside a jade bottle, used the fallen heart flame to close it, and slipped it into his storage ring. He rifled through Venerable Yin's corpse and pockets. There was a cloth bag and a storage ring, apparently what Venerable Yin had used to collect Earth Demon Old Ghost's soul earlier. The storage ring held little of value. Only 2 demonic beast cores caught Xiao Kun's eye, 1 7th tier and 1 8th tier, perfect for refining a heavenly demon puppet. The rest were Earth-rank peak cultivation and dough techniques, tens of millions in gold coins, and some 6th and 7th grade pills. He paid them little mind. Turning to the black cloth bag, Xiao Kun wondered how to open it. Deciding it was useless to keep closed, he channeled Do Chi into his hand and tore it apart. The destructive power of a Dozun-level expert was undeniable. The cloth couldn't withstand even a breath and burst instantly. What spilled out surprised him. Thousands of souls of varying strength. Among them were 3 at the Dozong level, including Earth Demon Old Ghost, more than 10 Do Huangs, and the rest mostly Du Wangs and Do Lings. Xiao Kun casually picked up Earth Demon Old Ghost's soul and said bluntly, "Venerable Yin is dead. You're free now. Go as you wish. Great mercy." "Thank you, Venerable One." The souls were first stunned by the news, then overjoyed. They thanked him and dispersed. After they left, Xiao Kun collected Earth Demon Old Ghost's corpse from the ground. He looked up as Yun Yun and the others approached. When they saw him finished, they hurried over. Yun Yun and Ya Fei, the 2 women closest to Xiao Kun, were the first to greet him. "You weren't hurt, were you? Are you okay?" "Don't worry, I'm fine," Xiao Kun said, smiling as he took each of their jade-soft hands and laughed. The warm, casual gesture left the 2 women slightly stunned, their faces flushed, made all the more noticeable by Ziyan's curious, wide-eyed stare. Medusa, watching from the side, felt an odd discomfort stir in her chest. Before more could be said, Ziyan, whose mind was always on food, blurbed out eagerly, "Xiao Kun, you beat such a powerful guy. You must have gotten good stuff, right? Any tasty medicinal pills?" "I do have some," Xiao Kun answered. Ziyan's large purple eyes lit up, and she could barely contain her excitement. Her pale neck twitched as if she'd already swallowed something delicious. Seeing Xiao Kun pause, she quickly added, embarrassed, I'm out of ingredients this trip. Can I give you some compensation in advance?" "You didn't finish all the pills I gave you last time?" Xiao Kun teased. "No, I wanted to try a different flavor," Ziyan mumbled, blushing as she shied her gaze and twirled her fingers. Xiao Kun laughed and tossed her a few medicinal pills. He didn't bother taking them from Venerable Yin's rings. He had his own stock. The group exchanged a few more words, then moved deeper into the valley. The valley was eerily sparse. Not only had Xiao Kun killed thousands, but most of those slain were experts above the Do Master level. Anyone too weak had sensibly stayed inside. Those who remained had fled when the tide turned. They would not get far. Xiao Kun had come prepared. His clone, which had remained hidden nearby, had already marked the fleeing people with soul identifiers. Sensing they hadn't gone far and might return for scraps, Xiao Kun sent another clone out to mop up the remaining forces. Next came the search for the Demon Flame Valley's treasure vault. Xiao Kun swept the area with his soul sense, but found no obvious vault or hidden store. With no other leads, he turned to Xiao Yan. If the vault held high-grade medicinal ingredients, she'd be the one to sense them. Xiao Yan, it's time for you to work. Tell me where their vault is and consider those pills payment in full, Xiao Kun said. No problem, that's easy. Xiao Yan grinned, delighted at the chance to repay him. She led them along the narrow valley until they reached a rocky wall overgrown with weeds. With little ceremony, Xiao Yan drew back and struck the rock with a rosy, clenched fist. Bang! Bang! Shattered stone flew as she punched through. In moments, she had carved a passage 10 feet wide and 30 feet long through the rock, revealing a hollow space within. A new cave lay exposed. Well done, Xiao Kun said, stepping forward to take the lead. Inside, it wasn't dark. Rows of moonlight stones were embedded in the cave walls and floor, casting a soft glow that lit the interior clearly. Chapter 199, Heavenly Demon Puppet's Secret Technique. The path in front of the cave entrance was lined with ferocious murals of demonic beasts, clearly meant to intimidate anyone who dared approach. Xiao Kun had expected traps or mechanisms, but found none. After walking several hundred meters, the murals ended and a rocky staircase descended before them. They followed the stone steps for 10 minutes and stopped at a heavy stone door. The door was black and covered in moss, radiating age and weight. Xiao Yan, restless as ever, couldn't wait. I'll do it, she said and struck the door. The stone door wasn't very thick. Xiao Yan's blow broke a hole through it, and blinding light burst from the gap, forcing everyone to squint. Instantly sensing an attack from behind the door, Xiao Kun, whose strength placed him among the Do Venerate, reacted without hesitation. He unleashed a 10-foot-wide bolt of Do Qi that shattered the already broken door and hurled a snake-shaped figure out of the opening. The creature, a demonic beast of Do King cultivation, was struck hard. Although Xiao Kun's attack had been casual, it left the snake beast gravely wounded, collapsed on the ground and unable to move. I didn't expect a guardian demonic beast in the treasury, Xiao Yan said breezily, as if the wounded creature posed no real threat. When the dust settled, they stepped into the chamber behind the door. It was a surprisingly spacious storeroom, lit as brightly as daylight. The walls were as smooth and black as ink-steel stone, as though the room had been carved directly from a vein of ore. The care Demon Flame Valley had put into this vault was obvious. Shelves lined with scrolls filled one side of the room. Crystal counters displayed rows of medicinal ingredients on the other. Xiao Kun glanced at the collapsed snake beast and, thinking it might be useful to Qinglin, tossed the heavily injured creature into his system space. His storage pocket could even hold living things in isolated compartments, so he wasn't worried about it damaging anything else. Search and take whatever you need, Xiao Kun said, then began inspecting the room himself. He first checked the scrolls. They were all profound rank cultivation techniques and Do techniques. Useful, but not extraordinary, and not what he was looking for. Turning to the medicinal counters, he searched more carefully and finally found 3 ingredients he had never seen before, 2 still-bore seeds. That eased his mind. Yun and the others appeared similarly underwhelmed. Only Xiao Yan was smiling as she collected several high-grade herbs. Catching his look, she pointed at them and mouthed, "Medicinal pills?" Clearly, she wanted to trade the ingredients for pills from him. Xiao Kun smiled and nodded. At the far end of the storeroom stood another shelf, protected by a transparent spatial barrier. Unlike the earlier scrolls, the items here were sealed individually inside wooden boxes. True treasures, by the looks of it. When Xiao Kun reached out and touched the barrier, he felt a faint spatial imprint, an arrangement likely set by the Earth Demon Old Ghost. It would intimidate most dozongs, who wouldn't dare strike recklessly for fear of damaging the contents. But Xiao Kun's mastery of space far exceeded the old ghost's. He placed his hand on the barrier, sensed the sealed spatial power, then drew it out cleanly. The barrier collapsed like a building without foundations and dissolved into wisps of energy. With the obstruction gone, the 4 wooden boxes sat on the shelf. Seeing the women's eager faces, Xiao Kun handed 1 box to each of them and grinned. "Open them, and afterwards we'll compare. Whoever has the best item gets a special gift from me." "Yes," Xian shouted, bouncing. Yunyun and Yafei smiled and nodded. Medusa remained expressionless but said nothing. They opened the boxes one by one. Xiao Kun examined each in turn. Yafei's contained a red scroll inscribed with a fire control secret art, the true flame manipulation formula. It taught how to cultivate a kind of pseudo-heavenly flame far superior to ordinary beast fire. Yafei's smile widened. Yunyun's box held 2 silver scrolls, made of a strange crystalline material with tiny electric serpents coiling across their surfaces. The scrolls proved to be an Earth-rank intermediate lightning cultivation technique and a lightning dough technique, named Thunderous Mirror and Awakening Thunder Law. Their value matched Yafei's offering closely. Xian's box produced a fist-sized, fiery red bead, a rank 7 demonic beast core. Xiao Kun's eyes brightened. Right now, the rank 7 core is the most valuable. Under Xian's expectant gaze, he delivered the verdict. Xian lit up, while Yunyun and Yafei's expressions dipped. Xiao Kun's judgment was logical. A rank 7 demonic beast core came from a dozong-level beast, creatures nearly human in intelligence and far stronger than ordinary dozongs. Such cores were exceedingly rare and difficult to obtain. Cultivated techniques, by contrast, could be bought or auctioned. Finally, all eyes turned to Medusa's box. Inside lay an unassuming gray-brown bamboo slip. When she unrolled it, several blood-red characters glowed with a fierce aura. Heavenly Demon Puppet. Xiao Kun's heart skipped a beat. This was exactly the Heavenly Demon Puppet secret art he had long coveted. Chapter 200, Strange Flame Technique. Xiao Kun's eyes scanned the blood-red characters on the bamboo slip. His heart beat faster as he read. The Heavenly Demon Puppet. This is neither a cultivation technique nor an ordinary dough technique, but an ancient puppet art. To forge a heavenly demon puppet, 3 things must be gathered: the body, the soul, and the magic core. The body serves as the vessel, the soul as the guide, and the magic core as the heart. Combined with numerous materials and the proper refining fire, the result is a demonic puppet. Demonic puppets are divided into 3 ranks: heaven, earth, and man, determined by the refinement materials and the forging fire. Their power is boundless. They feel no joy, no sorrow, no pain, and suffer no injury. They are instruments of slaughter. As he read, Xiao Kun realized something electrifying. With the body and soul he had just taken from Venerable Yin and a single critical strike on a magic core, he could almost certainly forge a due venerable rank heavenly demon puppet. Strike that puppet critically again, and a Do Saint rank puppet would be within reach. Thinking about such possibilities, Xiao Kun declared, "I think this heavenly demon puppet technique is the most valuable of the 4 items, so the prize goes to Medusa." "Ah, what a pity," Xian pouted, clearly disappointed to have lost the reward. Medusa's face flickered with surprise. She had never expected to win anything. She was the least forward of the group, and now she didn't know how to react. Luckily, Xian, ever lively, blinked her purple, gem-like eyes and asked him curiously, "Xiao Kun, what is the prize? Hurry up and show us." The other women leaned in too, curious. "Of course, it's 12 hours of my undivided company on a chosen day. During that time, you may ask for anything I can do. Could you give 100 rank 7 medicinal pills?" "Yes." "Ah, why wasn't the best item in my box?" Xian's expression deepened into regret, as if she had lost something precious. Yunyun and Yafei showed faint disappointment as well. None of them had spent an entire day alone with Xiao Kun for a long time, and the thought of missing that chance dampened their spirits. Medusa, who had actually won, blushed slightly. Spending a day alone with him felt awkward. She didn't hate Xiao Kun anymore, but intimacy was still uncomfortable, so she decided to decline. Gathering herself, she forced a smile and said, "That'll only cause Yun and Yafei to misunderstand. Let's change the prize." Medusa expected Xiao Kun to accept her refusal and perhaps find an excuse. Instead, he laughed and surprised her. "Were you startled? That wasn't the real prize. The real reward is an item, but it needs some time to prepare." Xiao Kun hadn't been surprised by Medusa's refusal. In truth, he had planned from the start to give away a heavenly demon puppet, but he couldn't possibly give one to everyone just yet, nor did he have the bodies of enough hostile dozongs to make many. So he teased Medusa with the companionship ruse to test her reaction and to avoid appearing biased. When Medusa froze, a faint twinge of regret crossed her heart, but she recovered and pressed him for details. Xiao Kun brushed her off playfully, which only made the women more curious. Of the items in the 4 boxes, only the fire control manual, the true flame sculpting technique, had been suitable for Yafei. So that was what he handed her. The other 3 items weren't useful to the women, so Xiao Kun pocketed them. As Yafei accepted the scroll, the system suddenly defaulted it as a gift from Xiao Kun, and a prompt chimed in his ear. "Ding, you have gifted Yafei a fire control secret art, true flame sculpting technique. You have triggered a 1,000-fold critical compensation. You have obtained a new fire control secret art, wonderful flame sculpting technique. All items have been stored in system space. Please check." A 1,000-fold critical, Xiao Kun's interest flared. The name of the new technique suggested it was an enhanced version of the flame sculpting technique. The weaker flame sculpting technique could only produce simulated strange fire. This upgraded version might actually cultivate a genuine strange flame. He checked the wonderful flame sculpting technique's details, and his excitement spiked. Cultivating it would allow one to nurture a strange fire comparable to the mysterious yellow flame, the lowest-ranked listed strange fire, by continuously consuming beast fire. Although the resource cost was staggering, dozens of rank 7 or 8 beast fires, this art was the dream of many alchemists. Wealthy alchemists could simply buy beast fire and grind it out over time. For Xiao Kun, it would be even easier. With some rank 5 or 6 beast fire and a critical strike, he could likely produce a flame no weaker than a strange fire. Grinning, he gave the technique to Yafei to boost her power. The idea of Yafei having her own unique flame pleased him, so he handed her the wonderful flame sculpting technique as well. The gesture delighted her. She planted a conspicuous red lipstick kiss on his cheek in gratitude. Xiao Kun scanned the storeroom. The shelves and counters had more empty spaces than when they first arrived. Many of the items had already been claimed by the women. "Have you all taken what you wanted?" he asked. "Yes, Xiao Kun, you can put the rest away," they replied. He smiled and, relying on his storage ring's vast space, gathered up the remaining items. He left only the 4 walls of dark steel rock and the moonstones embedded in them. No need to carry everything. He had a large family and was supporting both the Xiao family and the Gan alliance. Frugality was prudent. Finding nothing else of use, the group left the storeroom without hesitation. When they reached the surface, Xiao Kun saw his 8 clones waiting at the cave entrance. The rest of the Demon Flame Valley's occupants had been completely wiped out.